Super Paper Mario is a weird game. After two amazing RPG entries, Super veered off in a completely different direction, turning the game into a platformer. That RPG heritage can still be felt though. It's got stats, 3 of them, and the characters definitely talk like they're in an RPG. Despite the shift to more action-oriented gameplay, there's a lot of dialogue here. And when there's a lot of dialogue, there's bound to be some that didn't make it into the final game. Hey, I'm Disable, and I made a website called Dialogue Tree. I use this place to store video game dialogue, so people can look up specific quotes or find things they may have missed. Recently, I added Super Paper Mario's dialogue to the site, and this video is the result of my research for that project. I'd like to go over all the dialogue that I think is unused, as well as a few pieces that aren't unused but that you probably weren't intended to see in-game. Just as a heads up, this video will contain footage of me having modified the dialogue back into the game for demonstration purposes, so unless stated otherwise, assume that the dialogue mentioned is not actually accessible in-game. First off, let me introduce you to Super Paper Mario's fallback dialogue. When Super Paper Mario tries to load dialogue that doesn't exist, this message will show up instead. Obviously, you're not intended to see this one, but there are several ways to encounter it in an unmodified copy of the game. The easiest one is to tattle Bowser before fighting him in Chapter 7-2, though this one only works in North American versions of the game. There's some other ways to access this fallback, but they relate to other unused dialogue, so we'll get to those later. There's a few unused messages in the File Select menu. One of them is for saving changes made in the Settings menu. Super Paper Mario doesn't have a settings menu. The previous Paper Mario games already had very meager settings, but to be fair, Super Paper Mario didn't actually backslide in that regard. It's just that the settings that were previously there are now handled by the Wii operating system instead of the games themselves. As you probably know, Super Paper Mario started life as a GameCube game, so this unused message is probably from back when it was. Speaking of the game's GameCube origins, there's a bunch of names for unused items that you may recognize. No descriptions, just the names. They are honey syrup, maple syrup, royal jelly, coconut, dried bouquet, and mystic egg. These are all items present in the Thousand Year Door, except for royal jelly. Instead, Paper Mario 64 and the Thousand Year Door had jam and jelly. I wonder if royal jelly was just a mistranslation or if it would have been an official renaming of this item if it hadn't gone unused. Originally, Tippy was going to be listed in your pixel menu just like any other pixel. Because of this, she has an unused description. Point the Wii remote at the screen and press 1 to get hints. She can provide advice about people and things. This pixel menu Tippy actually still exists in the game, it's just inaccessible under normal circumstances. If you modify your game to unlock her, she'll follow behind you like a normal pixel would, except viewed from this weird front-facing angle. If you press 1 to use this version of Tippy, the game crashes, so I guess she's not as useful as the real Tippy. Speaking of pixels, if you beat a level where you're supposed to obtain a new pixel without getting that pixel, you'll get a short message telling you it's joined your party anyway, and then in the next level, you'll indeed have that pixel. The messages are, this pixel heard all about your adventures while waiting in a basement in Yole Town. Thoreau, the throwing pixel, is now your friend. This pixel heard all about your adventures while waiting beneath Gloam Valley. Boomer, the exploding pixel, is now your friend. This pixel heard all about your adventures while waiting in Merlee's mansion. Slim, the slimming pixel, is now your friend. This pixel heard all about your adventures while waiting in Fort Francis. Carrie, the carrying pixel, is now your friend. This pixel heard all about your adventures while waiting in the Florosapien caverns. Dottie, the minimizing pixel, is now your friend. Like the fallback dialogue, these messages aren't unused, but obviously you're not intended to see them. They simply exist as a failsafe so sequence breaking past a pixel doesn't get you stuck later. The craziest part is that not all pixels have a message like this, only 5 of the 8 mandatory pixels do, and those 5 just happen to be the only ones that are currently known to be skippable. The developers predicted the pixel skips perfectly. I guess that means they must have known about these skips even back then during development, but are you sure you don't want to put in a message for the other 3 just in case? I mean, history has proven them right so far, but that's still pretty ballsy of them. Super Paper Mario's main optional collectible is sketch cards. There are exactly 256 of them. That's as many values as will fit in a single byte. I don't know if that was actually a hard cap for the developers, but it seems to have been because there's text for additional catch cards that the game simply doesn't use. All of these are for NPCs. This foodie runs Sweet Smiles, Flipside's finest eatery. Her home-cooked dishes are out of this dimension. This crabby caterer runs Hot Frown, a Flipside bistro. She cooks breakfast for Tinga's hotel guests. Yeah, that's a typo. Her bistro is located in Flopside. It's Howzit, the friendly item shop entrepreneur. He's got everything you want and things you don't. Not so is the ultimate steely-eyed businessman. Could he be Howzit's twin, separated at birth? This guy runs Catch a Dream, the card shop. He pens the tiniest novels in existence. He runs Fondest Hopes, selling big reads for small spaces. He wears shades, but just for literary street cred. This gossip gatherer runs the local beveragarium. He was quite the party animal in his youth. This beverage slinger hears all the rumors around town. He likes beverage slinging because it sounds dangerous. This innkeeper knows how to keep the customers happy. She's a widow, but I hear she runs a weird fan club. This modest keeper of inns runs a tight ship in her hotel. She gets along well with Saffron, her former classmate. This questionable dealer has a hidden underground shop. The legality may be iffy, but the deals aren't. This shady cartographer sells treasure maps. He may look shifty, but the maps are apparently okay. This motivator oversees prisoners in Merlee's mansion. Nothing says motivation like the crack of a whip. This cute fish lives in the canals of Flipside. Well, it was cute until it grew freakishly big. This adventurer is a hero of many faraway lands. He's retired, but he still likes to get out sometimes. Blappy is an alien elder from way outer space. He likes to ponder the secrets of the cosmos. It's Marbolt, the respected Cragnon elder. He may look shifty and wrinkled, but he's reliable. You know when you use Tattle on your player character? That'll cause Tippy to give advice about how to progress through the story. I don't think this ability has an official name, but I call it Tippy's Guidance. Anyway, there's unused ones of those too. First off, you don't get access to this ability until you enter 1-1, so the guidance for the story points before then are unused. Let's hurry over to the Heart Pillar. We should pay Merlin a visit. Let's make our way through that red door. Next, there's an unused one in 2-3. Try not to always be in such a rush to move forward. Sometimes you've got to stop and look back on the paths you've traveled. This guidance is available when story progress is set to value 86, but it seems like the game just skips over that one. There's a document online that lists when each story progress value is set, and that one says it's set to 86 when you pay off your debt, but in my experience that's simply not the case. Even if it was, the end of that same cutscene sets it to 87, so it would still be unused regardless. I tried all sorts of things to access this story value, grinding lots of rubies without learning any of the codes, paying off the loan in full without getting slim or opening the vault. If you can find a legitimate way to access this guidance, please let me know, but I don't think there is one. There's only one other piece of unused guidance. This one seems to be meant for King Crocus's second phase. He's wide open when he shows his face. When his head gets too high up to reach, try tossing something at it. In reality, she has the same guidance throughout the whole fight. There's also a bunch of unused enemy tattles. Every size of Samurai has a tattle, for instance, but in the final game they just have their normal NPC tattle, even during battle. That says Samurai. This martial artist serves King Samur. Max HP is 1 to 99, attack is 1 to 10, defense is 0 to 4. Basic attack patterns are similar, but every Samurai is different. There are 100 of them in all. You will have to adapt to fighting each one. They always fight with great honor. It's a small Samurai. They are King Samur's diminutive warriors. Max HP is 5 to 99, Attack is 1 to 10, defense is 0 to 4. They move like other samurais, but their size gives them extra speed. They have a deep sense of honor, so be careful not to insult it. It's a big samurai. They are the most enormous warriors of the Duel of 100. Max HP is 5 to 99, attack is 1 to 10, defense is 0 to 4. As you might guess, they hit much harder than most samurais. They have a deep sense of honor, so be careful not to insult it. The Underchomp has an unused title. Because you fight it in a Dragon Quest parody battle, you can't point your Wii remote at the screen and use Tippy. She's not in the pixel menu either. That's the Underchomp. It's a 3-headed chomp that guards the Underwhere. Max HP is something, attack is something, defense is 10. It's immune to flames. Its defense is high, so try using Kutch, Boomer, Thudley or any special attack. The 3 door guys enjoy springing this fearsome chomp on unsuspecting travelers. An enemy's HP and attack are fetched from the enemy data itself rather than written into the dialogue. However, the defense is explicitly written, and in this case it's wrong. The Underchomp's defense is not 10 in the final game, so it's anyone's guess what its HP and attack were supposed to be when this was written. Nastasia has an in-battle title. That's Nastasia, the Count's executive assistant. She has served him the longest. Without him, she is quite lonely, but she manages to go on in her new life. It is hard for me to see her like this. I think I know exactly how she feels. It's weird, in the final game you don't fight her at all. And this title doesn't read like an enemy title either. However, it's grouped with the enemy titles in the files, and it's a different title than the one she has in Flopside. Lastly, have you ever noticed that Tippy is conveniently never around when you fight Dimentio? When you first meet Dimentio, she seems to recognize him. It made me wonder what secret Dimentio knowledge the developers were hiding by making Tippy absent for both of his battles. Well, apparently not much. That's Dimentio. He's a weird dimensional magician who works for Count Black. Max HP is 30 and attack is 2. Dimentio can flip between dimensions. He can also clone himself. Attacking his double won't do anything to him. Hit the real one and the double will disappear. Then he can't clone again for a while. This is his title for both encounters, the only difference being his stats. It's a completely ordinary title, and in hindsight I'm not sure the writers were actually trying to hide anything. Before his second battle, you can actually title the Dimentio illusions in the mirror room. She's got a pretty ordinary title for him there too. And there's some unused object titles as well. We can enter this pipe. To my knowledge, the only pipes to have a title in all of Paper Mario are the blue ones in Paper Mario 64. That's not the case here. The green ones, the blue ones, the black ones, none of them have this title. I think we can access this spot here. Try standing in front of it and pressing the D-pad. This one seems to belong to some kind of non-door object that functions like a door. Speaking of doors, it's a door, but we can't enter from this side. There's a bunch of different door titles, normal doors, this door, locked doors, blocked doors. None of them use this title as far as I can tell. There's also different titles for each chapter door. One for before you enter them and one for after. But, like I said, you don't have access to Tippy's titles until you enter 1-1. So the red door's title for before entering goes unused. The next pure heart is on the other side of this red door. Also, while we're still talking about doors, most of the game's boss battles take place inside of a room, with a door. This door will lock behind you, and usually if you try to open it, it will give you the default sealed door message. However, some of these have custom text written for them, and not all of them are used. When you're fighting Francis, his door was originally going to say, "It's sealed shut," and Mr. L's door was intended to say, "The door is being held closed by some immense power." The doors for Chapter 2 Mimi and Chapter 7 Bowser have custom text that actually does get used, and King Crocus and Bonechill's doors never had any custom text written for them to begin with. At the start of the game, there's an outage that prevents you from using the elevator that leads you to Flipside's first floor. It gets fixed after you beat Chapter 1, but for some reason there are a couple of NPCs on that floor that have dialogue exclusive to Chapter 1 and prior.
"Oh, hello, sweet Gladys. Is the food ready yet?"
What? You're not Gladys? Are you Gladys's mother? Please tell me you've tried one of Saffron's delectable desserts. They're amazing. I'm serious, they are so scrumptious. If you haven't tried them, you're nuts. So, hey, do you have any catch cards? What? You don't? Boy, how behind the times can you be? Busy on Flipside's basement floor has unused dialogue for the same reason. The elevator to his floor gets fixed the moment Boomer joins your team, but his first line of dialogue is only available before the start of Chapter 2. A hole in the sky, you say? I don't care about that, you blithering nincompoop. Ugh, where has that confounded wordsmith gone? After Chapter 1, you're reunited with Princess Peach. As she lies unconscious on the floor, Skeet and Merlin watch over her. Merlin tells you to get a spicy soup from Saffron, and his dialogue updates once you do. Skeet's dialogue doesn't update, but it seems like it was supposed to because he has an unused line for this scene. Seriously, she fell out of the sky just as I was looking up. After Chapter 2, there's a scene where the ground shakes and the void grows. After the shaking, Merlin would have said, "Oh, what was that?" But this was scrapped. Chapter 4 takes place in outer space, and here we find out that after the events of the Thousand Year Door, Mario developed a crippling oxygen addiction. When you return to Flipside, Merlin suggests looking for a helmet-like item that he gave to some random kid. After that interaction, when you talk to Merlin again, he'll repeat the last thing he said in the preceding cutscene. I hate it when games do this, it feels very artificial. Pokemon does this all the time, but Paper Mario is typically above this. In this case, I think it's legitimately just an accident though. This is the only time it happens in Super Paper Mario, and there's unused dialogue that would have fit here perfectly. I know it may be hard to convince that young boy to give it up, but for the safety of all worlds, you must! They probably meant to set Merlin's dialogue to this, but accidentally entered the idea of the previous line instead. When you do get the helmet-like item from the boy, there's an unused message box that reads, "You gots the goldfish bowl." That's not a typo, it's intentionally mimicking the kid's speaking style. The Flipside arcade has a very obvious placeholder menu for trading items. This was before Super Shrooms got replaced by Super Shroom Shakes, I guess. Most catch cards can be obtained infinitely, but you can only hold a maximum of 99 copies of a card without cheats. If you go to Hooden's card shop and obtain a 100th copy of a card, you get the fallback dialogue I showed you earlier. This seems to be the result of a simple mistake, because dialogue for this event does exist. Inside the bag lurked this card. Take it, for it is yours. Oh, but sadly you cannot. It looks as though you don't have room for this card. I shall buy this card from you for this many coins then. And even though in the released version you get a faulty message box, Hooden does pay you back for the card as claimed in the unused dialogue. So this feature is fully implemented, it just doesn't fetch the message correctly for some reason. He's also got another piece of unused dialogue. When you sell a card, normally he says, "I must thank you heartily. While you're here, would you care to sell more cards?" But if you're selling your last card, he instead says, "I must thank you heartily. It appears you no longer possess any cards. Return in the event that you come up on more." The unused dialogue is a shorter version of the last card one. "I must thank you heartily. Return in the event that you come up on more." Booden, the Flopside version of Hooden, has the same kind of unused dialogue. Normally, when you sell your last card, he says, "Thanks for the sellin'. Looks like you're all cleaned out of cards, huh? Head back this way once you get some more of them." But here's the unused, shorter version. "Head back this way once you get some more cards." There's also an unused one for buying cards. "Thanks for the buy-in." Normally, this is the kind of thing you'd see after clearing out a shop's inventory. The shopkeeper ends the conversation rather than offering more goods they don't have. For some reason, Booden does do that. "Wanna buy more cards? Yo, tough luck on that, we ain't got any more of those. Maybe later though." Garson and Carson are barkeepers who tell you secrets in exchange for a few coins. They both function the same way, the only difference is the stories they tell. However, despite their similarities, Carson and Carson alone has an error message for when he's trying to access an invalid story. I'm not sure why they even made one though. As you know, they already have a piece of dialogue that serves this purpose globally. Flim has some unused dialogue that would have been exclusive to the Pit of 100 Trials.
Talk about a score on your part. Seriously, you're gonna wanna marry that thing. And you helped me move my quota of goods for today. Win for me, win for you. Come back after a few more things fall off the proverbial truck. I'm winking here. Hey, you helped me move my quota of goods for today. Win for me, win for you. Come back after a few more things fall off the proverbial truck. I'm winking here.
This quote is actually on his Mario wiki page, but they must have just gotten that from a text dump or something, because I tried really hard to find this one. I asked friends for help, I asked Mario wiki editors for help, none of them were able to find this dialogue in game. So I talked before about Tippy's Guidance, a special version of the Tattle ability that updates based on your story progress. It's a nice crutch for if you get stuck on what to do next, or maybe you haven't played the game in a while and forgot what you were doing. Super Paper Mario is the first game in the series to include this feature, and every game after it has included a version of it, even the Thousand Year Door remake. So if you have this feature at your disposal at pretty much all times, then what on earth is even the point of Merlovely anymore? In past games she could also help you find collectibles like star pieces and badges, but Super Paper Mario doesn't have those. The only thing she does in the game is made completely redundant by Tippy, and she has so much dialogue. She has 198 fortunes in fact, and you know, doing this project where I document all dialogue and how to get it, I had to test each one of these. Turns out 10 of them are unused. Remember how the first couple of Tippy's guidances were inaccessible because you can't use Tippy until you reach 1-1? Merlovely has the same problem. She's there, you can technically use her, except she charges for her services, and there aren't any coins to collect until you reach 1-1, so... I see your destined path. I see Flipside. You follow your small friend and put the pure heart into the heart pillar in town. Then the way opens. I see your destined path. I see Flipside. You go see Merlin on the very top of Flipside Tower. Then the way opens. I see your destined path. I see Flipside. You enter the new red door at the top of Flipside Tower. Then the way opens. Next is an unused fortune for Chapter 4. I see your destined path. I see the world beyond the green door. I see the remote reaches of outer space. You give the food that starts with Cha to the space child you find there. Then the way opens. There's a more complete version of this fortune where she describes you going to the convenience store, and this one doesn't change after you buy the chocolate. It stays there until you feed Squirps. I see your destined path. I see the second floor of Flipside. You go to Merlin's house. Then the way opens. This is supposed to be available directly after Chapter 5. You visit Merlin's house in a cutscene as soon as you arrive on the second floor of Flipside. Since Merlovely herself is also on the second floor, you can't visit her before this story update. I see your destined path. I see the world beyond the dark blue door. I see the Sammer Kingdom. You go there and keep going forward. Then the way opens. This fortune is available after you defeat Mimi in Chapter 6 up until the Sammer Kingdom is destroyed. Throughout that entire section, the return pipe is disabled, so you can't see it. I see your destined path. I see the second floor of Flipside. You go to Merlin's house. Then the way opens. No, this is not the same one as before. This one has different punctuation. Anyway, this is the fortune Merlovely gives you before you're reunited with Tippy after the events of Chapter 6. That happens the moment you get back to Flipside, so you can't talk to Merlovely before that. In Chapter 7-4, after you save Wibby, Merlovely has a long fortune that describes how to get each of the 3 orbs you need to proceed. For some reason, there's an unused second version of this, but the only difference is when she talks about Blueby. She goes from, you find Blueby frozen in a building in the sky in Sector 2. You save him.
to you find Blueby frozen on top of a tall building in Sector 2. You save him. The last two unused fortunes take place in Castle Black and are unused for the same reason. The return pipe is disabled until you progress the story to the next fortune. The first one is for after you defeat Mimi. I see your destined path. I see the world beyond the final door. I see the darkness of Castle Black. You find the star block. You hit it. Then the way opens. And the second one is for when you meet Dementio. I see your destined path. I see the world beyond the final door. I see the darkness of Castle Black. You go to the room where you found Dementio. You find the spot where the light is shining in the room. You use your little friend to flip it. A blue switch then appears. You hit it. You chase after Dementio as he tries to run. When you see other spots with shining lights, you flip them as well. Then the way opens.
At the start of Chapter 1-1, there's alternate intro dialogue for Tippy. So this is where our search for the pure heart begins. Press A to flip between dimensions. This dialogue has WHF in its internal ID, which I think means it was written for the Tokyo World Hobby Fair. We know Super Paper Mario was shown off there, all the way back when it was still a GameCube game. However, this was in Tokyo, so obviously this was the Japanese version. I have no idea if this English translation was ever used in any demo. Also, I can't find any footage of players getting to Bestovius' house in this demo. As the dialogue implies, you start off this demo already having the flip ability. Not sure what would have happened if you tried visiting Bestovius' house, but it may well be what this next unused dialogue is for. The sign says, "Here resides the great and glorious Bestovius." There's no such sign by Bestovius' house, and also signs aren't normally described to you in a message like this. They show that text in a sign message box. They've been doing that since Paper Mario 64. Well, there is one sign in the final game that uses a message box like this, and it's in the same level as this unused one. Maybe it's just some early development weirdness. For some reason, the game lets you tattle people's houses. I never found it useful myself, but I guess it's kinda cute. However, this only works for houses that are in the foreground. Red's home and Green's home have tattles, but because they're a part of the background, Tippy can't target them. This is Red's house. He keeps suspicious people from crossing the bridge to Yoletown. That is Green's house. He makes sure suspicious people don't leave town. When you first enter Red's house, Red is stuck inside the third dimension. You can barely see him in 2D, but he is there, and you can even target him with Tippy. She'll give you his regular tattle when you do, but she was actually supposed to say this. There's someone here. I imagine they only wanted this tattle to appear in 2D and couldn't get that to work. In 1-3, there's a rock with an arrow on it that doesn't have a tattle, even though text for it exists. What a strange rock. If you flip, it looks a bit like an arrow. While fighting Fractail, if you mess around on his back without achieving anything, Tippy will eventually say, "Mario, can you see that antenna on Fractail's head? Looks pretty fragile." There's a second message like this that goes unused. That's not doing anything. Looks like you're going to have to attack its antenna. As you can see, they forgot to give it the correct message box. They fixed this in the PAL version, even though as far as I know it's still unused. Also, after you defeat Fractail, there's one unused message at the very end of his dying speech. This message would normally be his last, but he was originally going to say, "Fatal error!" In 2-1, there's an unused message from Tippy. "There's a crack here, I'll make it visible." I guess that's for an invisible crack in the wall? As it stands now, there's only one crack in 2-1, and it's the one that teaches you how to use Boomer. It does only lead you to an optional secret though, so it's possible they originally made this one invisible and only later realized that it could be used as a tutorial for Boomer. Of course, it's also possible there was going to be an invisible crack somewhere else in this level. Chapter 2-3 has some unused tattles I wish they'd kept, really not sure why they didn't. That's a power generator. It's designed to generate power when struck. That's a power generator. It's designed to generate power when spun. That's a question block, but it looks like a special question block. It produces mushrooms. Also, the Akpao in charge of this block has alternate dialogue that, as far as I can tell, isn't used. The first one is for when you talk to him for the first time and is basically the same as the normal version. The only difference is that the last two message boxes are merged into one. The second one, for talking to him after the first time, is actually different. Normally he says,
"You want a mushroom? Then all you gotta do is tap that block. Ugh! Each one is 10 rubies though, remember that. I need to pay off my debt, so chomp it up."
The unused alternate version is,
"After a hard day, chomp on a mushroom and put some pep in your step. Ugh! Each one costs a mere 10 rubies. Chomp it up."
This big pressure switch has two tattles, one for before you press it down and one for after. They're very similar to the tattles of the other pressure switch in the game in Floro Caverns, but slightly different. That makes these tattles unused because Tippy isn't normally available during Chapter 3. The only way to get to this room is to incorrectly answer a question from the Securi Meow, both of which you need to pass to finish the chapter, and the room's exit pipe is one way, so you can't go back that way either. So unless I'm missing something, this room is fully inaccessible after Chapter 3. Another tattle that's unused is Carrie's. "Someone is locked in this jail. Is it a pixel?" Again, Tippy is not available during this chapter, and Carrie is one of the pixels you auto-recruit when you finish the chapter too, so it's impossible to scan her. So impossible in fact that they didn't even implement this tattle. It exists in the files, but if you actually try tattling Carrie in game, you just get the fallback dialogue. After you pass the test that gives you access to Francis's room, the cat door will act like a normal door as long as you're playing as Peach. If you're playing as any other character, the door will continue to behave like an NPC, but it seems like it would originally keep talking to Peach as well. Come meow right in. The very first thing you do in Chapter 4, once it starts properly, is find and open Squirps' ship. But despite being the first thing you should do, there's texture if you get to it too early. What do you suppose this is? There appears to be something written on the back. "Quiet. I am sleeping. Leave me alone until wakey time." Seems as though someone's sleeping soundly in there. I suggest we return later. There's an unused tutorial for flipping to 3D in outer space for the first time. When in 3D space, move left, right, forward and back with the D-pad. To move up and down, tilt the Wii Remote forward and backward. I know Wii motion controls have a bad name, but this does sound kinda cool. As it is now, you just can't move up and down at all. There's also an unused message in the controls menu that I think is related to this. It simply says ascent, descent, describing the function of the tilt controls in this situation. Before twisting Squirps into the Squirp-shaped hole in 4-3, Squirps was originally going to say, "Twisty squisty." Seems harmless enough. I wonder if this was skipped by accident. For some reason, Squirps will never be in your party in the Woe Zone. At the start of Chapter 4-4, there's a cutscene of him going ahead without you, but even if you go back to the green door after getting the pure heart, Squirps will accompany you in every sub-chapter except for this one. Instead, you'll find him as an NPC in the final room. There's dialogue for a second cutscene at the entrance of the Woe Zone, where Squirps will leave your party just like he did in Chapter 4.
"Squirps is going to go ahead. You space grunts come later, Squirple."
Not really sure why they didn't use it. When you talk to Waka for the second time, before hitting him, he was supposed to say this.
"Waka-hoo! I'm Waka. Another lovely day here in Crag. Woohoo! Of course, yesterday was also pretty darn nice too. Wickety-wackety-wackadoo!"
You won't see this in the game though, because talking to Waka for the first time before hitting him deals damage to him. Yes, really. If you have a save file where you haven't interacted with Waka at all yet, you can see this for yourself. If you talk to him before hitting him, Waka will give you 7 bumps before leaving, but if you hit him without talking to him, you'll get 8. You might be wondering what on earth happened here. How do you even do something like this by accident? It's actually a pretty simple mistake. Whenever an NPC's dialogue changes after the first time you speak to them, they achieve this effect by setting a flag. This is a 1-bit value to indicate an event has happened. Flags start off with a value of 0 and are set to 1 when they're considered active. When you talk to an NPC that works this way, the game reads the value of the corresponding flag. If it's set to 1, it knows you've talked to them before, so it will trigger the dialogue for speaking to them for the second time onward. So after the first interaction, the developers intended to update the talked to Waka flag, but by accident they wrote that value of 1 into the other Waka variable, which tracks the number of times he's been hit. So yeah, if you want to maximize your Waka bumps, don't talk to him until you've hit him at least once. When you find Kutch in chapter 5-2, he'll ask you for a motto. You can then enter a short phrase which he will repeat. There's no word filter on this, so you can make him say anything, as long as it's exactly 8 characters long. If it's shorter than 8 characters, he'll ask you for something longer, but there's also dialogue for if you submit a motto that's too long. That's kinda long, isn't it? Don't wanna sound stuffy. Give me something shorter. This dialogue only appears if you submit a motto that's 16 characters long. The entry screen only gives you 8 characters to work with though, so that's impossible. The reason it works this way is because the game doesn't actually look at the number of characters in your motto. Instead, it checks if the motto's length is 16 bytes. A single Japanese character takes up 2 bytes in memory, but the Western character set only uses 1 byte per character. That's why it's impossible to make a motto that's too long in English. This Kutch check was designed to detect a motto of 8 Japanese characters. This is also why your motto needs to be exactly 8 characters long in English, because the minimum in Japanese was 4 characters, 8 bytes. The minecarts in chapter 5-3 have an unused title. That's a rail cart. Get on it and it'll automatically start moving. Remember this writing on the wall in Floro Caverns? If you scan it with Tippy, she'll say, "There are letters written on the wall here. Behind the skull." That's what it says. Apparently this text was originally low enough to read yourself. There's a message here that looks like this. Jade Blooper, the first Samur guy you fight, is the only character in the Samur's Kingdom to have any unused dialogue at all. Because he's the first, he has 3 different introductions. When you meet him for the first time in chapter 6, when you meet him for the first time in the post-game, and every time you meet him after that, because in the post-game your progress resets when you leave the Samur's Kingdom. But there is also a 4th unused introduction. This one is a normal intro like the other Samur guys have.
Fear the slimy reach of Jade Blooper, for I am the guardian of the first gate. My liege will bestow a pure heart to the victor of this tournament. Ready yourself for battle, foe. You shall soon know the many arms of my fury.
When you answer one of Dorgai the First's questions incorrectly, he'll say,
"Wrongo. Sorry folks, but that's not what I needed to hear."
and then the quiz just ends immediately. It's a bit abrupt, and it was actually supposed to be a little longer. Here's the bit that got cut.
"Can't let you through, I'm afraid. Just can't do it. I'm gonna need you to leave. Of course, you can always train your brain for a few minutes a day and return."
Here's a set of dialogue that's not unused, but it might as well be. When you free Wibby from his block of ice, a cutscene starts in which your player character will speak. However, the only way to free Wibby is with Bowser's fire, so his dialogue is the one basically all players will see. But if you stand far enough away, there's actually a 2-frame window where you're able to open the character select menu before the fire hits the ice. You can tell if you did it correctly before even selecting a character by whether or not this orange star appears by the ice. If it does, the ice will melt when you close this menu. If there's no star, you pause too early and need to try again. And if you press pause too late, the cutscene starts without opening the menu. Do this correctly and you can swap characters to get worse dialogue than the one you would have gotten normally. Yeah, while I think it's interesting that this trick is possible at all, the thing is that Bowser is always the player character with the funniest dialogue, so switching away from him just isn't going to do you any good. And finally, the last unused piece of dialogue is a tattle for Yebby. That's Yebby. This powerful NIMBY is the head of the Arts and Sciences sector. He's smart, but a little timid and pig-headed. He holds one of the 3 orbs that form the key to Granby's temple. The reason this one's unused is because Yebby only ever shows up in this cutscene. Before and after, he'll always be on the toilet. And that about does it. I've now covered the unused dialogue of all 3 entries of the original Paper Mario trilogy, and I just wanted to say I learned a lot from this experience. I used to think that old games were just completely understood by now. The speedrun and challenge run communities pick games apart to optimize their runs, and games are data mined for their content, revealing all that exists inside them. But I've learned that there's still plenty more to find. The cutting room floor page of the 1000-Year Door has a huge collection of unused dialogue now, but that wasn't the case when I made my video about that game. I'm still convinced that my video is the first place on the internet to mention Glispo, other than the full text dumps it said unnoticed in, and it happened again with Super Paper Mario. At the time of recording, the cutting room floor's unused text page is so barren compared to what I covered in this video. And that's not like a flex, what I'm saying is, every bit of information you know about scrapped video game content is because someone went through the trouble of finding it, and you shouldn't assume that just because a game is old it's already been done. If you have a favorite game you'd like to know more about and you're willing to put in the effort, maybe have a look inside. It's possible that so far I've just gotten lucky with the games I decided to look into, but it's also possible that you'll actually find something completely undocumented if you try looking for yourself. And then it's probably gonna bug you that you're the only person who knows about it and you'll have to start a YouTube channel just so you can share that information with the rest of the world. That seems to be how this works.